punctual.
Okay, we want to welcome the Rutgers Knights to the podium. Caitlin Schweihofer entering her 5th season on the Banks. Rutgers had their most wins in more than a decade last season. To her right, Aly Borellis, a junior setter in her first season in the Big Ten after transferring from Ole Miss. And to the far end, Zora Hardison, the sophomore middle, who entered the starting lineup for the final 10 matches of 2023. Coach, I'll let you have an opening statement.
Hello. Well, I'm so excited to be here for our 3rd annual Big Ten Media Days. It's so exciting, and I chose these two to join us this year for a lot of reasons, but they really represent what I think this season will become. And Aly obviously making the commitment to Rutgers in January, and Zora having had to step into some big shoes at the end of the season when our starting middle blocker was injured after we played Illinois. So I thought they were great representatives of the program, and again, I thank the Big Ten for allowing us this opportunity to be in front of you all.
We'll open it up for questions, and just a reminder, please state your name and affiliation. Start with Peter.
How's it going, Peter, for a Big Ten Plus? Aly, let's start with you. The transfer. Talk to me through the process. How did you end up at Rutgers? What was the decision? And, if there's future players, whether they're recruits thinking about going to Rutgers, how can that influence their decision?
Yeah, for sure. So my experience was very quick. I entered in December, so I had about 3 weeks to really figure it out and kind of pick it. And it really just came down to the culture. And it's really hard to find culture just on a visit, but you could just tell that these were genuine people. And you could tell that they had a future that they wanted to build, and they were doing and taking all the right steps to get there. So I think for me, it was coming into an environment that had that competitive mindset, had a group of girls that really wanted to win and knew that they could. And for me, it was definitely tough, but I also was recruited by Caitlin when I was, I think, 16 during COVID. And it was just a tough situation during then, but I knew them from that point. And so using that to my knowledge, I knew that they were great people and they saw something in me that young. And so for them to want me again 2 years later, it's like they knew that they saw something and I was becoming the person that they wanted. So it just came down to family environment, it came down to the people. And I think New Jersey is a really great place to just have a college experience and just grow up there and kind of learn new things, because it is definitely different from where I'm from. But overall, it's just a really great experience, and the people is what makes it for me.
I'm not going to lie, Aly's dad made me work for it a bit. So
Yes,
it was a quick
yes.
process, but, and he's a business guy, so I basically had to create a business plan of what our future for the next few years with Aly in it would look like. And I guess I
It worked.
passed the test,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Can you say that again? So you had to create a business plan? or
Well,
what?
he just wanted to know, and again, like any parent, he cared about his daughter. She was transferring from a previous institution, and so there's always pros and cons to where she was coming from and what you're walking into. No place is perfect, but sometimes in the transfer process, it can be so fast that it just seems like the grass is greener wherever you visit or wherever you go. And so he just wanted to be sure that we were checkmarking all the boxes. That was the best institution and program for his
Yeah, and like
daughter.
on my visit, my dad made her like write out a whole entire like little sheet of everything that I wanted. Shout out my dad, but yeah.
My
so
business degree came in handy.
yeah. So everything was written out on my visit, so it was great.
Shout out Mike Borellis.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mike?
Lincoln?
Lincoln Arneill with Husker Illustrated. Caitlin, can you talk about the significance of that Minnesota match last year? What it meant for like the growth of the program to get a rated win, and how do you try to make that happen more often?
I believe in this room before I talked about our goal sheet and how we had a list of small wins that we wanted to meet and trying to cross these off every year and to ultimately get to the big goal of making the NCAA tournament, winning a Big Ten championship, winning an NCAA championship, which has to be the end goal, right? So last year, I believe that the win versus Minnesota, it proved to, and not only proved, but also showed the world of what we are capable of as a program. And there was a lot of questions about this program, if it was possible, if we should be in the Big Ten, can we be competitive within the Big Ten, where is the ceiling for Rutgers volleyball, and getting that first ever top 25 win, I think really blew the ceiling off. So it's just exciting for the team. It was motivation for the players, I think for our future recruiting classes, and just kind of showed that my vision and reality was coming into fruition, and that we still have future opportunities to get wins like that.
Kaylin Goldman, 5 wins. Caitlin, you've spoken a bit about recruiting more within the United States. I wanted to hear a bit more about that process, and then to the player's point, how that affects culture as you bring in new people.
So it's not unknown that when I first took over the Rutgers program, it had been significantly internationally dominated within the roster. And so I felt that it was important, in order to build the Rutgers brand within the United States, we needed to recruit domestic players. There is an importance to grow a fan base within the United States. And now that we have put effort into recruiting domestically, we're able to really have a true audience wherever we go and wherever we play, and not only from parents but also from boosters and other friends. I will never eliminate our international recruiting. As you'll see this year, we have 3 or 4 international players, excuse me, but I can't think of exactly the right, no, 4, sorry. But they are, Rutgers is a true destination for an international student. We're a 45-minute train ride from Manhattan, so it's a true destination for any student, but having 3 major airports so close by, it is interesting for an international student. But I have felt that I wanted to use the relationships that I had and that my staff had with domestic clubs, and we've been very successful doing so. I recently was told by a club in a Big Ten, I won't say which one, but a Big Ten state, that I was turning that state into New Jersey. So that was interesting. That happened to be Nebraska, but no.
This question is for Zora. You're one of the youngest people here this whole week, these whole 2 days. What's the experience been like for you so far, getting the call midway through last season, finishing strong, and now being amongst the elite of the Big Ten?
So honestly, my team is very amazing. They helped me adjust really quickly. I think having that experience has helped for this season, coming in, helping with our freshman Natalie with her adjustment, because she'll be playing as well. So I think honestly, it's just helped our game improve.
Zora is one of the most coachable athletes that I have personally ever worked with. I think her improvement over this spring, I mean, she had to jump into a role that she wasn't necessarily prepared for. I remember, didn't you even say last time, like, I don't think I'm playing this year. And then when she got called in because of injury, she's like, okay, I guess I'm playing. I'm like, well, you were the only other middle on the team. But she really took that in stride, and then this past spring has not only worked really hard in the weight room and in order to increase vertical and overall fitness level, but just in her volleyball IQ, because that's probably the area that needed to grow the most. So I've seen a lot of improvement in that space.
Aaron Ferguson, Wisconsin State Journal. Aly, what is it like transitioning to a whole new team and having to learn players' tendencies? And for Zora, how has she, I guess, gotten acclimated to the team and really handled that job?
Yeah, I would say coming in, it's definitely stressful. It's scary. It's a new experience. But for me, I'm just very blessed to have a group of girls on this team that just want me to feel comfortable. And I think a lot of people just say that, but it's true. The whole time they've made me feel at home. They've always reached out. They always wanted to get to know me. And I think knowing that these players believe in me, it makes it easier on the court. And so when I felt that family environment off the court, once I was able to play, I felt that I could really help this team and I could be confident and I could use what I've learned in the SEC to bring it here to this team and see what works and stuff. But yeah, I would just say that it's definitely different and it's scary because it is, at least for me, across the United States, but it's been nothing but home for me. And I think these girls are just so incredible and no one really sees it when they're playing, but some really, really good group of girls, and it's made my adjustment just so much easier.
Aly, she's such a bubbly person, like overall, so finding that connection in person helped 100 times more just in the game playing with her. She made it easy to connect with her as a setter and hitter, and she just done an amazing job adjusting to the new team.
And from a coaching standpoint, I think having Abby Dietering on staff with us, who has set in the Big Ten, I believe that was a big reason why Aly chose Rutgers, was that she was going to be trained under Abby in a setting role, and so their connection and the relationship that they were able to develop over the spring, it's much easier to bring in a setter transfer in January than it would be in June, because you have the ability to create that dynamic throughout the spring.
Hi, Caitlin. Real quick, you guys have Washington and Oregon back-to-back on the schedule this year. I was just kind of curious, what do you think that's going to look like for you guys going out there literally coast to coast and playing on both sides of the country?
I think it's going to look awesome. We have an airport 25 minutes away from us. I mean, Newark Airport is so easy to get to, and we've looked at all different travel options, whether it was charter, whether if it was commercial flights. And I have a very good friend who also coaches at Oregon State, so I asked her about what the travel was like between Washington and Oregon, and she was like, okay, we'll do this and then drive this time, and so to make it all easier. So I've used my resources wisely in that sense, but it's going to be new for everyone, right? It's a first year, so there's going to be a learning curve, and it's actually my first time ever out to Oregon, so I'm really excited about the opportunity to play out there. I've been to Seattle before. I've never played at Washington, but I've been to Seattle before, so I think our players are really excited about it. Obviously, USC and UCLA are coming and playing in New Jersey, so that's going to be their challenge, but Big Ten travel is tough whenever. Just Oregon might be easier to get to than Lincoln, Nebraska. So, or who knows? But we'll find out this year.
So, Coach, players, we have some students here from Brunson Academy in Chicago. They're aspiring journalists, 7th and 8th graders. They have a question for you.
What are your long-term goals, and where do you see yourself in the world of volleyball in 5 years?
I'll go first. I think that's a great question, first off. But, yeah, I think it's just up from here. I think women's volleyball has slowly grown over these past few years, and now seeing pro volleyball in the States is just a really good step for us. So I think, at least for me, now, I mean, it could change, but for now, I definitely want to try and play pro in the States and just keep getting women's volleyball out there. And yeah, definitely my long-term goals is just pro volleyball and just continuing to finish these last 2 years really strong and just making Rutgers volleyball just a bigger name and more fans and just getting our name out there. So, yeah, for me.
Yeah. Personally, I don't see myself going pro, but for the rest of the years that I'm here, I see myself being a leader and taking titles, if that makes sense.
What is one memorable game for you?
Definitely Nebraska last year. I had a lot of self-doubt, coming into the Big Ten and playing, but I think I showcased my skills, and to be able to bring that this season, I'm very excited to.
Kaylin, you have a little more challenging non-conference. You've been playing Miami, Colorado, Arkansas, LIU also made the tournament last year too. Was that intentional, and what do you hope to gain out of that type of schedule?
It was very intentional. We looked at scheduling this year very differently than we had in the previous years. Last season it was to pass that double-digit mark, which we had done, and now that we have again accomplished some of the smaller goals that we had set for ourselves, which felt really big at the time, now we need to really elevate our level of competition. So we were the largest differential team between a Pablo ranking and an RPI last year, so it was almost a 75-point difference. So I wanted to close the gap on there, so playing the RPI game a little bit more closely so that if we are in contingent or have the ability to potentially make the NCAA tournament, we want to have that opportunity in front of us, and we weren't necessarily playing teams in the past that would have given us key wins outside of conference. So we wanted to start off the season with a tougher competition and then slowly waver into the Big Ten, but I think our players are excited for the challenge. It's a goal of mine to always play in front of the hometown of players on the team at least once in their career. So Krista Dooley is from Dallas, and we have some other players from Texas as well. So it's just a good opportunity to get in front of their hometowns too.
Coach, I've recently talked to Coach JoJo over at St. John's, and one thing she said is, you don't understand how much the sport is growing in the East Coast, and you mentioned earlier in terms of not, quote, per se having to get international recruits. Talk to me through the process, though, of talking with the younger players in, that are in club earlier on, wanting to stay in that Northeast area.
So I love JoJo. She's a wonderful mentor, and she was the first one. I was a player, and she's like, I think you could coach one day. So I give a lot of my career to her. But we sold out our camps this year for the first time. We hosted our first overnight camp as a staff this season, and we had almost, how many girls? 175 overnighters. We had multiple day camps, and so that was a big growth from this last season. And New Jersey volleyball is really big. It's a mission of mine. I have a 6-year-old daughter, so it's a mission of mine for her to have a quality club to play at when she goes to play. And so my staff is really involved in the satellite camp arena as well. So we've been going out to high schools in the area and running satellite camps in order to promote not only at the varsity level, but also the JV and the middle school level, and try and generate interest that way. And then from a marketing standpoint, a lot of our game marketing strategy is around youth. So things like last year we did a superhero night, and this year, I don't know, bounce houses and things like that are just drawing in families to the arena, because I do feel that if we can get players in a Rutgers volleyball jersey much earlier on than their junior year of high school, that interest is going to only grow the program. So I'm excited about just first time ever, I was walking through the mall and I saw someone in a Rutgers volleyball shirt, and I asked to take their picture with them. So there I was like, okay, snaps for that person. But yeah.
Any other questions? Caitlin, you mentioned this checklist that you have of small wins, right? How much progress have you made against that checklist? Where are you at, and where do you think you are in getting the program to where you want it to be?
So many things have been crossed off that list. I mean, we've achieved a lot of the goals: top 25 win, all Big Ten attacker, all Big Ten setter. We didn't finish in last place in the Big Ten. I mean, there was a lot of things that needed to be checked off that list. And like I said at the very beginning of this press conference, we were in the process of proving to people that we could be competitive. And so those things were needed in order to create, to lessen the doubt. And now that those goals have been achieved, now it's just about showing people that we can win. And so I'm really excited about this season because the opportunities in front of us, and they have put together a wonderful team. And again, the culture, as you can hear, is extremely strong. And I think we're going to really shock some people this year.
How did you get into coaching for volleyball?
Oh boy. Well, as I mentioned, my college coach kind of planted the seed, but I actually started working in Manhattan after I graduated from college. I worked in a public relations agency, and I handled for Johnson & Johnson and Ulta. So I handled PR, and I really missed volleyball, so I started coaching part-time at the Fashion Institute of Technology at FIT. And after that, I moved back home to Pennsylvania to help my mother with her business. And I started coaching in high school, and my high school team did extremely well, and I got offered an assistant coach at Bucknell, and then Lehigh, and I tend to take positions that aren't always people are scared of, right? And they're programs that need to have growth, and they're programs that maybe other people are like, okay, that could be a career killer, but putting a lot of energy and faith into that. If all the pieces are in place, if the administration is in place, and if the resources are in place in order to be successful, that why not? Why not the LaSalles of the world? Why not the Rutgers of the world? And I think these players, when I recruit them, we had that exact same conversation as to why not. And so I love coaching, and I really love seeing the growth of my players, and it's just a really fun career path.
Final question.
Coach, you mentioned the inroads you've made in Nebraska. You have to replace Madison Chitty, a 4-year starter. One of those people that could replace her is Kenzie. Mm-hmm. What kind of opportunity does Kenzie have in front of her? What do you like that she brings to the team?
Yeah, Kenzie has huge opportunity in front of her. She was able to play in a DS role for us last year. That had really always been the plan, was that we would have Madison Chitty remain as the libero, and then Kenzie kind of fill her role, and that's how we recruited. And Kenzie's taken a lot of ownership of that. She's put on a lot of strength. Her biggest weakness last year was just her ability to control really hard-driven attacks, and her serve-receive is where she spent most of the time in the spring perfecting. She is a natural leader, and she's the oldest of 4 girls, and so she has that, and she's super organized, and she's definitely taken on the accountability role, and you guys can speak to that as well. But I'm excited to see what her potential is. We did bring in Allie Dutton as a freshman this year too, and she's out of Circle City in Indiana, and so she's a quality candidate. And we also have some upperclassmen who have gone between both being outside hitters and DSs. So I think there's still some competition at that role, but it's Kenzie's for the taking at the moment.
Yeah, I would just say, speaking of Kenzie, I think Kenzie is one of those people that you just feel so calm on a court with. And I think even if the game is like really fast-paced and it's super stressful, she is so incredible at just like letting us breathe and reset. And I feel like I always can count on her, and I'm sure Zora can attest to this, but she just has that aura to her that you can just rely on her for anything, and it's really hard to find. So.
And if anyone wants to give up their tickets to the Nebraska-Rutgers game, the Deerstads are looking for like 700 tickets.
True that.
Caitlin, Aly, Zora, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good luck this season.
Thank you.